The discovery in the dark. The maintenance tunnels of Kepler 7 space station hummed with the endless drone of recycling systems and power conduits. Marcus Jin crawled through the narrow passage, his worn coveralls catching on exposed bolts and his flashlight cutting through the perpetual gloom. 23 years old and already tired of fixing other people's problems, he'd taken this job on the outer rim to escape questions about his past. Out here, nobody cared what brought you to the edge of known space. His scanner beeped softly, indicating another malfunctioning air recycler somewhere ahead. The station's AI had been sending repair requests all week, but Marcus suspected most of them were false alarms. The old girl was getting paranoid in her age, seeing problems where rust and time had simply taken their natural course. That's when he heard it. A soft whimpering echoed through the tunnel ahead, barely audible over the mechanical symphony surrounding him. Marcus paused, his hand tightening on the flashlight. In 3 years working these tunnels, he'd never heard anything that sounded remotely alive down here. The station's pest control was thorough, and even the hardiest space rats couldn't survive in these conditions. He moved forward cautiously, the sound growing clearer with each step. It wasn't quite crying, but it held the same desperate quality that made his chest tighten with unwanted sympathy. Marcus had heard that sound before, in places he tried not to remember. The tunnel opened into a small maintenance chamber, barely large enough for the massive water recycling unit that dominated the space. His flashlight beam swept across pipes and gauges before landing on something that made him freeze completely. Huddled against the far wall, partially hidden behind a cluster of coolant pipes, sat a young woman. But she wasn't human. Her skin held a pale blue luminescence that seemed to pulse gently in the darkness, and her hair was the color of deep space itself, so dark it seemed to absorb light. She couldn't have been more than 19 or 20 in human years, though Marcus had learned not to judge alien ages by human standards. She was injured. Dark stains covered her simple gray clothing, and one arm hung at an unnatural angle. But what made Marcus's breath catch wasn't her wounds or her obviously alien nature. It was the creature curled in her lap. The thing was about the size of a house cat, but that's where any similarity to Earth animals ended. Its body seemed to be made of living crystal, translucent and constantly shifting between colors. Currently, it glowed a soft amber, pulsing in rhythm with what Marcus assumed was its heartbeat. 6 delicate legs, each ending in tiny crystalline claws, were tucked beneath its body. Its head was elongated and graceful, with large eyes that held an intelligence that made Marcus deeply uncomfortable. Both the girl and her companion looked up as his light found them. The creature's glow immediately shifted to a warning red, and it made a sound like wind chimes caught in a storm. The girl's hand moved protectively over its back, and she pressed herself harder against the wall. "Hey," Marcus said softly, raising his free hand to show he meant no harm. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." The girl's eyes were the most striking purple he'd ever seen, and they studied him with a mixture of fear and desperate hope. She tried to speak, but only managed a weak croak. Her lips were cracked and pale, and Marcus realized she was probably dehydrated. Without thinking too hard about what he was doing, he set down his tool bag and pulled out his water bottle. It was against regulations to share provisions with unauthorized personnel, but Marcus had never been good at following rules when people were suffering. He held the bottle out, moving slowly so as not to spook either the girl or her crystalline companion. "Water," he said simply. "You need water." The creature's glow shifted to a suspicious orange, but the girl's eyes locked onto the bottle with naked hunger. She reached for it with her good arm, her hand shaking with weakness. When their fingers brushed as she took the bottle, Marcus felt a small shock of electricity. Not painful, but definitely not normal. She drank greedily, and some color returned to her pale features. The creature's glow softened to a gentler blue, though it never stopped watching Marcus with those unnervingly intelligent eyes. "My name is Marcus," he said, settling back on his heels to appear less threatening. "What's yours?" The girl set down the empty bottle and touched her throat gingerly. When she spoke, her voice was like music, even roughened by thirst and injury. "Vexera," she whispered. "My name is Vexera." Her accent was unlike anything Marcus had heard before, turning each syllable into something that seemed to hang in the air longer than it should. The creature in her lap chirped softly, and she smiled despite her pain. "This is Pip," she added, her good hand stroking the creature's crystalline surface. "He is, how do you say, companion?" "Friend." Marcus nodded, though he kept a respectful distance. Pip's glow had settled into a cautious yellow-green, which he hoped meant the creature was beginning to trust him. "How did you get down here? Are you hurt badly?" Vexera's expression darkened, and she looked away. "I hide," she said simply. "Bad men come to ship. Kill family. Take cargo. I run with Pip, find place to hide." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. Pirates. The outer rim was plagued with them, and the authorities were spread too thin to protect everyone. Entire families disappeared regularly, their ships stripped clean and left drifting in the void. "Your arm," Marcus said gently. "It's broken, isn't it?" She nodded, tears beginning to form in those impossible purple eyes. "Pip is hurt too. Inside. He does not glow bright anymore. I think he is sick." As if responding to her words, the creature's light flickered and dimmed noticeably. It made a small, pained sound that went straight to Marcus's heart. He'd always been a sucker for injured animals, and apparently that extended to crystalline alien companions too. "I can help," he said, the words coming out before he could stop them. "I mean, I'm not a doctor, but I know basic first aid. And there are people on the station who can help properly." Vexera's eyes widened with something that might have been hope. "You would help? Even though we are different?" Marcus looked at this frightened girl holding her injured companion, both of them clearly at the end of their strength, and felt his heart make a decision his brain would probably regret later. "Different doesn't matter," he said firmly. "What matters is that you're hurt and scared, and I can't just walk away from that." Pip chirped softly, his glow warming to a gentle gold. Vexera smiled through her tears, and Marcus felt something shift in his chest. Something he'd thought was dead after everything that had happened back on Earth. "Can you walk?" he asked, already mentally calculating the best route to the medical bay that would avoid the main corridors and security checkpoints. "I think so," Vexera said, though she looked anything but certain. Marcus stood and extended his hand. "Come on then. Let's get you both somewhere safe." She hesitated for only a moment before taking his hand. The electric tingle was stronger this time, spreading up his arm and making his heart beat faster. Pip climbed carefully onto her shoulder, his crystalline claws finding purchase in the fabric of her clothing. As Marcus helped her to her feet, supporting her weight as she swayed unsteadily, he caught a scent that reminded him of ozone and flowers after rain. Definitely not human, but not unpleasant. Just different. "Thank you," Vexera whispered, leaning against him as they began to make their way slowly back through the tunnel. I thought we would die alone in the dark." "Not on my watch," Marcus said, and meant it completely. He had no idea that his simple act of kindness was about to set in motion events that would shake the foundations of interstellar diplomacy. All he knew was that he couldn't abandon this strange, beautiful girl and her crystalline companion. Some choices, he reflected as they moved through the station's hidden passages, are made by the heart before the head even knows what's happening. Healing and understanding. The medical bay's soft blue lighting cast gentle shadows across the treatment room as Dr. Yuki Tanaka worked with practiced efficiency. Marcus watched from the corner, his arms crossed and his jaw tight with worry. 3 hours had passed since he'd brought Vexera and Pip to the one person on Kepler-7 he trusted completely. "The bone will heal cleanly," Dr. Tanaka said, adjusting the biocast around Vexera's arm. "Your species has remarkable regenerative capabilities. I've never seen cellular repair work this efficiently." Vexera winced as the cast tightened, but her attention remained focused on Pip, who lay motionless on a smaller examination table. The creature's usual crystalline glow had faded to barely a flicker, and his breathing was shallow and rapid. "What about Pip?" she asked, her voice tight with worry. "Can you help him?" Dr. Tanaka's expression grew troubled. She was a small woman in her 50s, with graying hair and kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. Marcus had known her since his first day on the station, and she'd never failed to help anyone who needed it, regardless of their species or legal status. "His physiology is unlike anything in my medical database," she admitted. "The crystalline structure appears to be both his skeleton and his nervous system. The trauma he suffered has caused fractures in his internal matrix. It's like his entire body is one complex organ." Marcus stepped forward. "But you can fix it, right?" Dr. Tanaka hesitated. "I can stabilize him, but truly healing damage like this requires specialized knowledge of his species' biology." I'm essentially working blind here. Vexera's face crumpled, and she reached out to stroke Pip's dimming surface with her good hand. The creature managed a weak chirp, his color shifting to a pale pink that Marcus was beginning to recognize as affection. There might be another way, Dr. Tanaka said slowly. Your people, do they have medical knowledge about Pip's species? Vexera's expression darkened. My people are dead. Pirates killed them all for cargo that was not even valuable. She paused, then added quietly, but Pip's people, they still live. In the Andorian system. If we could reach them. That's 3 weeks' travel from here, Marcus said. And expensive. Do you have passage money? The look on Vexera's face was answer enough. She'd lost everything when the pirates attacked her family's transport. Everything except Pip and her life. Marcus felt that familiar tightness in his chest, the same feeling that had made him quit his job back on Earth and run to the Outer Rim. He'd sworn he wouldn't get involved in other people's problems again. But looking at Vexera's desperate face and Pip's fading light, he felt his resolve crumbling. I might know someone who can help, he said, ignoring Dr. Tanaka's warning look. But we'll need to be careful. Station security has been cracking down on unauthorized aliens. As if summoned by his words, the medical bay doors hissed open. Commander Elena Torres strode in, her uniform crisp and her expression stern. She was a compact woman with silver-streaked black hair and eyes that missed nothing. Behind her walked someone Marcus had never seen before but recognized from descriptions, a tall, elegant alien with deep purple skin and 4 arms, wearing the formal robes of the Galactic Council. Dr. Tanaka, Commander Torres said, her voice carrying the authority of absolute command. We need to discuss your newest patients. Vexera immediately tensed, her good arm moving protectively over Pip. The creature's glow flared briefly to red before fading back to that worrying dim flicker. Commander, Dr. Tanaka said evenly, these individuals are under my medical care. They're not going anywhere until they're healed. The alien stepped forward, and when he spoke, his voice carried the musical quality Marcus was beginning to associate with non-human speech. I am Representative Thanegon of the Galactic Council's Refugee Authority. We have been monitoring communications about unauthorized alien presence on this station. Marcus felt his stomach drop. He'd known this moment would come, but he'd hoped for more time. They're refugees, he said, stepping protectively closer to Vexera's bedside. Pirates killed their family. They're not criminals. Thanegon's large, dark eyes studied Marcus with interest. And you are the human who found them, yes. Marcus Chen, maintenance technician, formerly of Earth Colony Beta 7. The casual mention of his past made Marcus's blood run cold. He thought his records were sealed, his history buried deep enough that nobody would bother looking. Apparently, he'd been wrong. Commander Torres noticed his reaction. Is there something we should know about your background, Chen? Nothing relevant to this situation, Marcus said tightly. What matters is that these people need help. Vexera struggled to sit up straighter, despite her injuries. Please, she said, her accented voice carrying clearly through the room. I do not ask for much. Only chance to save my friend. He is all I have left of my family. Something in her tone seemed to reach Thanegon. His expression softened slightly, and he approached Pip's examination table with careful, respectful movements. A Chrysalis symbioticus, he said with something like awe. I have not seen one in many years. They are sacred to many species, considered to be bridges between the physical and spiritual realms. Can you help him? Vexera asked urgently. Thanegon extended one of his 4 hands over Pip, not quite touching the creature's surface. Pip's glow brightened slightly, shifting to a curious blue-green. His injuries are severe, the representative said gravely. But not beyond healing, if he can reach his people in time. The Chrysalis have techniques for matrix reconstruction that are beyond current medical science. The Andorian system, Vexera said. That is where his people live. Commander Torres crossed her arms. 3 weeks travel, minimum. And we still haven't resolved your legal status. Technically, you're an undocumented alien on a Terran coalition station. Marcus felt his temper flare. So what, you're going to let them die because of paperwork? I'm going to follow proper procedures, Torres replied sharply. Which exist for good reasons. The same procedures that let pirates operate freely in this sector. Marcus shot back. The same procedures that left an entire family dead and these two stranded with nowhere to go. The room fell silent except for the soft humming of medical equipment. Dr. Tanaka cleared her throat diplomatically. Perhaps, she said carefully, there's a solution that serves everyone's interests. Representative Thanegon, could the council provide emergency medical transit for Pip? Thanegon's expression grew thoughtful. It is possible. But there would need to be a formal request, a full investigation of the circumstances, approval from multiple departments. The bureaucracy alone could take weeks. Weeks Pip doesn't have, Vexera said quietly, her hand still resting on her companion's dimming form. Marcus watched the interplay of politics and bureaucracy threatening to strangle the life out of two innocent beings, and felt something snap inside him. The same something that had made him stand up to his commanding officer back on Beta 7, that had cost him his career and forced him into exile. What if I took them, he said quietly. Everyone turned to stare at him. Commander Torres raised an eyebrow. Took them where, Chen? To the Andorian system. I've got vacation time saved up, and there are commercial transports that make the run regularly. I could escort them, make sure they get where they need to go safely. Marcus, Dr. Tanaka said gently, do you have any idea how expensive passage for 3 people would be? He did know. It would cost everything he'd saved in 3 years of working double shifts and living like a monk. But looking at Vexera's hopeful expression and Pip's fading light, he found he didn't care. I've got enough, he said simply. Vexera's eyes filled with tears. You would do this? 4 strangers. Marcus met her gaze, seeing something in those purple depths that made his heart race. You're not strangers anymore. Commander Torres studied him for a long moment. This is highly irregular, Chen. And if anything goes wrong, it's on your head. I understand. Representative Thanegon stepped forward. Perhaps I can help expedite the paperwork. Ensure that there are no legal complications with your travel documents. Marcus nodded gratefully. Thank you. As the commander and the representative left to handle the bureaucratic details, Marcus found himself alone with Vexera, Pip, and Dr. Tanaka. The doctor busied herself with her equipment, tactfully giving them privacy. Why? Vexera asked softly. You barely know us. Why would you sacrifice so much? Marcus pulled a chair closer to her bedside, studying her face in the gentle medical bay lighting. She was beautiful, he realized, in a way that had nothing to do with human standards of attractiveness. There was something luminous about her, something that drew him like gravity. Because, he said, reaching out to gently touch her uninjured hand, sometimes the right thing to do is also the only thing you can live with doing. Their fingers intertwined, and that electric tingle ran between them again, stronger this time. Vexera's eyes widened, and Marcus wondered if she felt it too. On my world, she said quietly, we believe that paths cross for reasons beyond our understanding. That some meetings are written in the stars themselves. Maybe they are, Marcus said, and for the first time in years, he found himself believing in something bigger than just survival. Pip chirped softly, his glow warming to gold as he seemed to sense the connection growing between his guardian and her unexpected rescuer. Whatever lay ahead, Marcus knew his life had just taken a turn towards something he'd never expected to find again. Hope. The washing that shook the galaxy. The journey to understanding. The passenger liner Stellar Dawn hummed through hyperspace, its corridors filled with the usual mix of traders, tourists, and travelers seeking new lives on distant worlds. Marcus had splurged on a small cabin with 2 beds, giving Vexera privacy while he slept on the narrow couch. For the past week, they'd fallen into a comfortable routine of shared meals, quiet conversations, and careful tending to Pip's gradually improving condition. The crystalline creature had responded well to the stabilizing treatments Dr. Tanaka had administered before their departure. His glow had strengthened from that worrying flicker to a steady, gentle radiance that shifted through blues and greens as he rested in Vexera's arms. But Marcus could see the underlying concern in her purple eyes whenever she thought he wasn't looking. How much longer? She asked, settling beside him in the observation lounge as stars streaked past in brilliant lines of light. 3 more days to the Andorian system, Marcus replied, offering her a cup of the sweet tea she'd grown fond of. Pip's looking stronger today. Vexera accepted the cup gratefully, their fingers brushing in the exchange. That electric sensation had grown stronger over their days together, and Marcus found himself seeking out these small moments of contact. Yes, but... She hesitated, then spoke in a rush. Marcus, I must tell you something about Pip's people. About what we are asking of them. The serious tone in her voice made Marcus turn to face her fully. What is it? The Chrystalis are sacred, yes. But they are also very proud. Very traditional. They do not trust easily, especially not outsiders who bring their wounded to be healed. She looked down at Pip, who purred softly in her lap. When they see that you, a human, have been caring for one of their own. You think they'll be angry. I think they will test you. Test your worthiness. And if you fail... She didn't finish the sentence, but Marcus could imagine the consequences. Before he could respond, an announcement echoed through the ship's comm system. Attention passengers. We are experiencing a minor technical difficulty and will be dropping out of hyperspace for emergency repairs. Please remain calm and stay in your designated areas. The ship shuddered as it transitioned back to normal space, and through the observation windows, Marcus could see they were in an empty system, nothing but distant stars and the cold vacuum of space. Emergency repairs in deep space were always risky, but the crew seemed calm and professional. It was 3 hours later when everything went wrong. The first Marcus knew of trouble was when Vexera burst into their cabin, Pip glowing a frantic red in her arms. Marcus. Something is happening. Pip says there are others like him nearby, but they are angry. Very angry. Marcus grabbed his jacket and followed her into the corridor, where passengers were gathering nervously around the viewports. Outside, sleek alien ships had appeared as if from nowhere, their hulls gleaming with the same crystalline patterns that covered Pip's body. The ship's captain, a grizzled man named Reynolds, approached them with a grim expression. Chen. You're the one traveling with the alien refugees, right? That's right. What's going on? Those ships out there belong to the Chrystalis sovereignty. They're demanding we hand over what they call stolen sacred property. Reynolds looked pointedly at Pip. They seem to think you've kidnapped one of their own. Vexera's face went pale. This is impossible. Pip chose to come with my family freely. He was bonded to my sister before the pirates. She stopped, her eyes widening with sudden understanding. The pirates. They must have sent word ahead, claimed they were the rightful owners. The Chrystalis would not know the truth. Marcus felt a cold knot form in his stomach. What exactly are they demanding? Reynolds consulted his tablet. Complete surrender of the creature, plus the immediate arrest of all parties involved in its alleged theft. They're threatening to destroy the ship if we don't comply within the hour. The next few minutes were a blur of frantic activity. Marcus found himself in the ship's communication center, facing a holographic projection of the most imposing alien he'd ever seen. Elder Zyx Thera of the Chrystalis sovereignty stood nearly 8 feet tall, her body covered in natural crystalline formations that pulsed with angry red light. Her voice, when she spoke, was like the sound of crystal chimes caught in a hurricane. Human, she said, the word dripping with disdain. You will surrender the stolen sacred one immediately, or face the consequences of your crime. There's been a misunderstanding, Marcus said, fighting to keep his voice steady. Pip wasn't stolen. He's a refugee, just like Vexera. Pirates killed her family and... Silence. The elder's glow flared brighter. The creature you call Pip is Zyx Miran, child of the crystal depths, bonded servant of the sovereignty. The pirates who contacted us provided proof of legal ownership. Marcus felt his heart sink. The pirates had covered their tracks perfectly, selling false documentation to make their theft appear legitimate. And now the Chrystalis believed they were the criminals. Please, Vexera said, stepping forward with Pip cradled in her arms. Look at him. See how he trusts us. Would a stolen creature show such affection to his captors? For a moment, Elder Zyx Thera's harsh expression softened as she observed Pip's gentle golden glow and the way he nuzzled against Vexera's neck. But then her features hardened again. Tricks and manipulations. The sacred ones are innocent, easily deceived by those who would exploit them. Her gaze fixed on Marcus. You will surrender Zyx Miran now, or your ship and all aboard will be destroyed. Marcus looked at Vexera's desperate face, at Pip's trusting eyes, and felt something crystallize in his chest. He'd run from one fight already in his life, abandoned his principles to save his own skin. He wouldn't do it again. No, he said quietly. The hologram flickered with the elder's shock. What did you say? I said no. Marcus stepped forward, his voice growing stronger. Pip is hurt. He needs medical attention that only your people can provide. If you want him back, then heal him first. Prove that you actually care about his well-being more than your wounded pride. The entire bridge fell silent. Even the ship's crew stared at Marcus in disbelief. Nobody spoke to a Chrysalis elder that way and lived to tell about it. But instead of anger, something unexpected flickered in Zyxthera's crystalline features. Curiosity. You would challenge the sovereignty itself for this creature? I would challenge anyone for a friend, Marcus replied. And Pip is my friend. The elder was quiet for a long moment, her internal light shifting through various colors. Finally, she spoke again, her tone more thoughtful than threatening. There is an old custom among my people. When ownership is disputed, the accused may undergo the trial of intent. It is dangerous. Many do not survive. But if you succeed, your claim will be recognized. Vexera grabbed Marcus's arm. Marcus, no. The trials are meant for Chrysalis. A human cannot possibly. What does it involve? Marcus interrupted. Elder Zyxthera's expression became almost predatory. You must prove your bond with Zyxmiron by sharing his pain. Your life forces will be temporarily linked. If your intent is pure, if your care for him is genuine, both will survive the process. If not, we both die, Marcus finished. I understand. Marcus, please, Vexera whispered, tears streaming down her face. I cannot lose both of you. Marcus turned to face her, gently cupping her cheek with his hand. That electric sensation was stronger than ever, and he could see his own feelings reflected in her purple eyes. You won't lose us, he promised. Trust me. The trial took place in the cargo bay of the Chrysalis flagship, a vast chamber filled with singing crystal formations that hummed with harmonic frequencies. Marcus lay on a platform made of living crystal, Pip resting on his chest. Elder Zyxthera and a circle of other Chrysalis surrounded them, their bodies glowing in preparation for the ritual. When the connection is made, the elder explained, you will feel everything Zyxmiron feels. His pain, his fear, his memories. If your heart is false, the feedback will destroy you both. If it is true, we'll both heal, Marcus said, stroking Pip's crystalline surface gently. The creature purred, his light warming to that familiar gold. The ritual began. Pain exploded through Marcus's body as his nervous system synchronized with Pip's damaged crystal matrix. He felt fractures running through his bones, heard the echoes of violence and terror from the pirate attack. But underneath the agony, he felt something else, Pip's memories of kindness. Vexera's sister singing to him in their family's garden. The warmth of being loved and protected. And more recently, the gentle touch of human hands caring for his wounds, the sound of Marcus's voice offering comfort in the darkness. The pain intensified, threatening to tear Marcus apart from the inside. But he held on, focusing not on his own suffering but on Pip's need for healing. He poured every ounce of love and determination he possessed into that connection, offering his own strength to help repair the damage. Light exploded around them, brilliant and warm. When it faded, Marcus found himself gasping on the crystal platform, Pip glowing brighter than he'd ever seen before. The creature's matrix had been completely restored, his internal fractures healed by the shared bond they'd forged. Elder Zyxthera approached slowly, her own light now a gentle blue instead of angry red. In 3 centuries of life, I have never seen a non-Chrysalis survive the trial of intent. Your bond with Zyxmiron is unprecedented. Marcus struggled to sit up, still dizzy from the experience. Does this mean? It means you have proven something I thought impossible. That love and loyalty can transcend species barriers. The elder's voice held a note of wonder. Zyxmiron is yours to protect, human Marcus. But know this, you are now bonded to our people as well. You will always have a place among the Chrysalis, should you choose to claim it. The journey back to Kepler-7 was very different from their outward trip. Word of the trial had spread throughout the galaxy's communication networks, turning Marcus and Vexera into unlikely celebrities. The human who had risked everything to save an alien's companion pet had become a symbol of interspecies cooperation. But Marcus barely noticed the attention. He was too busy watching Vexera teach him the proper way to care for Pip's crystalline surface, their hands moving together in the warm water as they gently cleaned away the dust of their adventures. "You know," Vexera said softly as Pip purred contentedly between them, "on my world, we have a saying. Love is the water that washes away all differences." Marcus smiled, marveling at how a simple act of kindness had led him to find not just purpose, but something he'd never expected to discover among the stars, a family. "Maybe," he said, watching the light dance between Pip's crystals and reflect in Vexera's eyes, "some kinds of washing are worth starting a war over." Pip chirped in agreement, his glow warming to the most beautiful gold Marcus had ever seen. The end.